Trump announces most crushing economic operation ever against Iran over its failure to reach a deal, warns economic punishment on any country helping Tehran. Indian ministers meet Singapore Prime Minister ahead of Ministerial Roundtable talks focus on strategic partnership roadmap, bilateral ties and economic cooperation. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to hold bilateral talks with his Japanese counterpart in New Delhi, focus on maritime security, defence, tech transfer and Make in India. Bangladesh to hold presidential polls with 349 MPs set to vote between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. First presidential election involving voting after a gap of 35 years. And in World Badminton Championships, Indian shuttlers brace up for a stupendous show at 5 major matches. All eyes on PV Sindhu, Ayush Shetty and Satwik Chirag. And on to the details now. United States President Donald Trump has announced the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country on Iran. In a post on Truth Social on Wednesday, Trump said Iran has failed to take the opportunity to make a deal and will be finished with economic warfare and isolation on an unprecedented scale. He also announced sanctions on any country that does not business with Iran. Trump said any country providing financial, business, airport or government support to Iran would face tremendous economic consequences. Trump listed several activities that need to stop immediately. Those are oil smuggling, swap lines, cash transfers, exchange houses, ship registries, front companies. Also, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, on the other hand, has accused Washington of escalating sanctions after previous rounds failed to force Tehran into submission, calling the approach a barrier to any negotiated exit from the conflict. Well, the United Arab Emirates suspended all trade with Iran on Wednesday after it said it had come under renewed fire from the country. Following the news that 2 ballistic missiles had been fired towards the UAE, the Foreign Ministry said that while it remained committed to dialogue, cooperation and regional integration, it had decided to impose the punitive measures. The UAE's Defence Ministry said assessments showed that the missiles targeted maritime traffic. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai denied that Iran had launched any missiles towards the UAE. US President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that the Strait of Hormuz was open and that lots of boats were coming through. Trump had also said there were no talks currently scheduled with Iran, while maintaining that the waterway remained operational. Earlier, reports said the US negotiating team had been asked to pause talks with Iran until Tehran was ready to make a deal.
Well, we have things that we could sanction. We have very draconian sanctions, and we'll see what happens. Right now, the strait is open. A lot of boats are coming through. People aren't reporting that, and that may slow down a little bit at some point. But right now, a lot of boats are coming through. The naval blockade has been extremely effective. Zero, I mean, literally while it's up, and that's been for quite a while, you know, except for a couple of little pauses where we opened it purposely with a deal. But the deal didn't terminate, you know, the deal didn't turn out to be what they said, you know, when they tell us one thing and they do another.
Well, meanwhile, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf said Tehran would not reopen the Strait of Hormuz until the United States fulfilled commitments under a 14-point memorandum of understanding, including lifting the blockade, releasing frozen Iranian assets and easing the oil sanctions.
Our trip to Iraq today is aimed to strengthening the new order in the region and accelerating the strengthening of cooperation between all countries in the region without foreign interference.
Well, Akshay Dongre joins us for more. Well, Akshay, with the UAE now suspending trade with Iran after the reported missile launches, how much more pressure does this put on Iran, one? And could it actually bring Tehran to the negotiating table or risk making the situation even worse?
Well, it's quite a difficult to speculate situation right now, especially given the fact that tactics are changing in this conflict. But Lipakshi, one thing you have to note here that the military actions by the US, Israel, and other their allies have failed to bring the result that the US has been hoping for. They were claiming that they will be bombing Iran to oblivion. They have been making all sort of other claims as far as the military capabilities of Iran is concerned, claiming that they have destroyed it completely, that they have controls of Strait of Hormuz, and all sort of claims. However, it still hasn't ended in Tehran being coming to the, or rather Tehran coming to the negotiation table, or conceding to the demands that are being raised by the US as far as the negotiations are concerned. So now punitive economic actions and punitive economic measures are something that we are seeing right now as far as the US government is concerned, and it seems that tactics are changing from a military action to economic action in trying to bring some sort of measure which will force Tehran into accepting the kind of demands that are being raised, or rather to give the US an upper hand as far as the negotiation is concerned. But it's difficult to speculate whether that is going to result into a closer economic cooperation between Tehran and, let's say, Beijing or Moscow. Rather than Tehran actually going and accepting the demands of the US. So that is also a reality of this world that we have to understand, that it's not just the US as a sole superpower. You have other major powers in that are closely aligned with Tehran, including China and Russia.
All right, so economic warfare in place there. But Akshay, Trump says the Strait of Hormuz is open, but Iran says it won't reopen it until the US meets its demand. So what's really happening with the Strait right now, and how important is it to the wider US-Iran standoff?
Well, technically the strait is open. Yes, Donald Trump is right there. But as far as lots of ships are crossing through Strait of Hormuz, that seems to be a lie. There is no other way to put it, because earlier, before the conflict started, there used to be about 130 ships that used to cross the Strait of Hormuz, but every day, and that is a daily figure. And if you look at the figure of just yesterday, only 6 ships crossed the Strait of Hormuz, which will mean that, yes, obviously the strait is open, but under immense pressure, under immense guidelines and sort of a strictness that is being shown as far as the ships that are allowed to cross the Strait of Hormuz. So the situation is absolutely not normal. Not a lot of ships are actually not crossing the Strait of Hormuz, but that strait is open. Probably some are taking the Omani corridor, some are communicating to the IRGC officials and the Iranian government, and that is how probably they are crossing the Strait of Hormuz. But no, the strait is not functioning as it normally used to. In fact, it's even less than a fraction of what used to happen through that important strait as far as trade is concerned.
All right, so global economy is suffering there. Thank you so much, Akshay, for all that perspective. And moving on, Iraqi Prime Minister Ali Al-Zaidi met Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf and his delegation in Baghdad on Wednesday. Now, during the meeting, Zaidi underscored the deep bonds and connections between Iraq and Iran and called for increased joint efforts to strengthen bilateral ties. Now, Ghalibaf, in turn, thanked the Iraqi government for its successful organization of the recent Arba'in pilgrimage, during which millions of Iranians visited the holy shrines of Shia imams in the Arab country. Iraqi Parliament Speaker Haibat al-Halbausi called for special status for Iraq's oil exports through the Strait of Hormuz during talks with Baghir Ghalibaf. And the United Nations has expressed a serious concern over new U.S. sanctions targeting senior officials of the International Criminal Court, including its president, Tomoko Akane. The measures have drawn attention to growing tensions between Washington and the Hague-based court over its authority to prosecute alleged international crimes.
We've seen the announcement by the United States regarding the imposition of sanctions on the International Criminal Court President, Tomoko Akane, as well as a senior trial lawyer, Abdullah Essay. I can tell you that the Secretary General expresses serious concern about this designation, as well as the ongoing designation of other International Criminal Court employees. While the United Nations and the International Criminal Court are separate institutions with separate and distinct mandates, as we've often said, the United Nations considers the ICC a key pillar of international criminal justice, and the Secretary General very much respects its work.
Well, in a latest update, the Ukrainian capital Kyiv came under attack from Russian ballistic missiles early on Thursday, leaving at least 5 people dead and 23 others injured. According to the mayor Vitaly Klitschko, there had been strikes in 3 districts of Kyiv on non-residential and apartment buildings, some of which were on fire and leaving parts of the Ukrainian capital without power. Klitschko said 23 people were wounded across the city and that some people were trapped in one of the shelters. He did not provide further details. Meanwhile, at least 1 person was killed and 2 others were wounded on Wednesday in a series of Ukrainian drone attacks in the western Belgorod region. In a separate attack elsewhere in the region, another woman sustained injuries requiring hospitalization and several residential homes were damaged. Belgorod, which borders northeastern Ukraine, had faced a frequent drone and artillery attacks since the conflict began. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky outlined priorities for newly appointed Defense Minister Yevgeny Kamara on Wednesday, saying his main task would be to strengthen Ukraine's defense, production and procurement systems. In his evening address, Zelensky said he expected the Defense Ministry to expand Ukraine's deep strike capabilities and work with domestic arms manufacturers to improve the country's ability to defend its skies. Ukraine's parliament approved Kamara's appointment on Wednesday, as Zelensky had nominated him after first appointing him as acting defense minister following the ousting of Mikhailo Fedorov in July. Well, Ukraine's ex-defense minister Mikhailo Fedorov has called for wartime elections in what is widely seen as the biggest challenge to Volodymyr Zelensky's presidency since Ukraine-Russia conflict. In a social media post, Fedorov said democracy cannot be held hostage by Russia, adding that Ukraine is fighting precisely because they want to remain a free European state. Since the conflict broke out in 2022, Ukraine has been under martial law, meaning elections have been suspended. Mikhailo Fedorov was born in Russian-occupied Vasilivka and raised in Zaporizhia. He was appointed as Ukraine's Minister for Digital Transformation in 2019 at age 28, making him the youngest minister in the cabinet. Well, Fedorov is popular in the parts of the military focused on drone warfare, of which he was a key early adopter since 2022. In 2022, Fedorov made a public appeal to SpaceX owner Elon Musk to switch on the Starlink satellite internet service over Ukraine. In February this year, Fedorov worked with Starlink to block its unauthorized use by Russia. He championed an army of drones, helping make the technology central to the battlefield. He became defense minister in January 2026, promising a data-driven military overall. Fedorov's July dismissal sparked protest in Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities as well. In fact, the protesters demanded Fedorov's return and dismissal of military chief Alexander Syrsky over high troop losses. Zelensky replaced Syrsky but did not reinstate Fedorov, nominating Yevgeny Kamara as defense minister. Also ahead of Kamara's confirmation vote, Fedorov called for elections in his strongest wartime criticism of Zelensky. And Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak said on Wednesday that Russia had begun importing fuel as gasoline shortages persisted in parts of the country. Novak did not provide details on the volumes or sources of the imports, but said several oil refineries were expected to resume operations soon after scheduled maintenance, helping improve fuel availability. Long queues formed on Wednesday at some filling stations in Moscow and the surrounding region, while many stations were closed or offered only diesel. Fuel stations in Moscow have reimposed limits on gasoline purchases amid shortages linked to Ukrainian drone attacks on refineries and strong seasonal demand as well. Fuel shortages began intensifying in May and spread to most Russian regions by July. Russia has increasingly turned to fuel imports after repeated Ukrainian strikes on energy facilities reduced refining output. And a Russian Tu-76 aircraft equipped with specialized firefighting equipment landed in Serbia on Wednesday to help battle major wildfires that have been burning for more than 3 weeks in the country's north. According to Russian Emergencies Ministry, Serbia appealed directly for support, calling on Russia for help over a critical deterioration of the wildfire situation and a threat to populated areas. Well, over 330 firefighters and emergency personnel have been deployed to contain a major blaze in Serbia's northern Vojvodina province. As of Tuesday, the fire had affected more than 3,500 hectares of forest, grass and low vegetation, making it one of the largest wildfires in Serbia this summer. The wildfire crisis began on July 26, with firefighting efforts ongoing since then. A significant new blaze erupted on August 5th, spreading rapidly due to soaring temperatures and strong, erratic winds. And a second Ukrainian suspect allegedly involved in the 2022 explosions that damaged the Nord Stream gas pipelines has been arrested in Croatia on a European warrant, German prosecutors said on Wednesday. Prosecutors identified the suspect as Vladimir Z, a trained scuba diver who allegedly belonged to a group led by former Ukrainian army officer Serhiy K. The group is accused of planting explosives on the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 pipelines near Denmark's Bornholm Island. German prosecutors said the alleged attack aimed to permanently halt gas deliveries through the pipelines and prevent Russia from using natural gas revenues to finance its war effort. The explosions on September 26, 2022 damaged the pipelines, which were built to transport Russian natural gas to Germany under the Baltic Sea. And still to come in DD India News Hour. US President Donald Trump hints at meeting North Korean leader Kim Jong-un later this year. Marking a major success in cancer treatment, Moderna Merck announces cancer vaccine cuts melanoma recurrence. And desiring to spend more time with his ailing father, King Charles III, Prince Harry and wife Meghan plan a UK return.
Welcome to DD India, where a billion voices unite, connecting viewers to the stories that matter. India is not just another news channel. It's the international channel that puts the spotlight on the global south, bringing you stories from the heart of emerging economies, dynamic cultures and transformative voices. As the international news channel of India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati, DD India delivers high-quality content from every corner of the globe, focusing on the stories that shape our future. We don't just report news. We connect you to India's voice in the global narrative. From current affairs to culture, from economic growth to sustainable development and the ever-evolving world order, DD India gives you a comprehensive view of the world around us. Stay connected, stay informed, and embrace the stories that shape our lives. DD India. India's voice to the world.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, US President Donald Trump says he will meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un this year in what would be their first encounter of Trump's second term. Trump told reporters that Pyongyang has 57 very powerful nuclear weapons, marking the first time he cited a specific figure for the recalcitrant regime's nuclear arsenal. Trump also said he would also likely discuss artificial intelligence with Chinese President Xi Jinping during his visit to the US next month.
America remains the undisputed leader, not only in Bitcoin and crypto, but also technologies like prediction markets, artificial intelligence, and much more. And we're leading in every single one. And I will tell you, the AI, the artificial intelligence, we're way ahead of number two. Number two is China. And I never want to underestimate China, but right now we're way ahead. President Xi's coming on September 24th. We look forward to it. We'll probably be talking about AI and a lot of other things.
As U.S. President Donald Trump plans to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un later this year, signaling a possible revival of high-level diplomacy with Pyongyang, the move comes as Washington scales back joint military drills with South Korea, and tensions continue over North Korea's growing nuclear arsenal. Trump said he wants to maintain his relationship with Kim and claimed North Korea now has 57 nuclear weapons. South Korea, however, estimates the North's arsenal at between 80 and 120 weapons. Kim's sister, Kim Yo-jong, said she was unaware of any recent communication but acknowledged that her brother still has good memories and feelings about Trump. And the United States is moving ahead with plans for a major transport corridor through Armenia, aiming at connecting Azerbaijan with its Nakhchivan enclave and promoting trade and regional prosperity. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio signed an agreement with Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan during a visit to Yerevan, calling it the biggest step yet towards making the Trump route for international peace and prosperity, or TRIP, a reality. The agreement outlines a joint venture and an engineering survey for the planned road and rail corridor, while Washington and Yerevan also signed agreements on strategic cooperation and critical minerals. Moving on, the U.S. and Canada are closing in on a trade deal as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will meet Canada's Foreign Minister Anita Anand at the White House on Thursday. U.S. President Donald Trump had threatened a new batch of tariffs on Canadian imports starting on Wednesday, but citing progress in talks, pushed back the date to Saturday. Now, Trump told reporters the United States will probably have a deal with Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said on X that the two sides were moving towards an agreement. Now, until a deal is formally reached, negotiators face a deadline of Saturday when tariffs on $20 billion worth of Canadian goods are scheduled to take effect. The sources also said that the proposed deal was expected to cut top-line tariff rates on Canadian-built cars and trucks to 15% from the existing 25%. Industry executives say that rate threatens to kill Canadian auto manufacturing. Washington imposed the steel, aluminium and autos tariff last year under a national security law, prompting Canadian countermeasures. And President Donald Trump unveiled a new White House construction project on Wednesday, issuing an impromptu invitation to reporters to join him on the South Lawn. The tour concluded with him signing a giant slab of granite that he said would be flipped and laid into the helipad. Trump announced the helipad in July from the Oval Office and said that Sikorsky, the manufacturer of the Marine One fleet that carries the president, would pay for the build. The helipad is made of 4-inch thick granite dug out of a quarry in California. Carved into the granite in large letters is the seal of the United States of America. Well, Moderna and Merck has said that a personalized mRNA cancer vaccine reduced the risk of recurrence and spread of melanoma in a late-stage trial. This is major success in a new field of cancer treatment that sent Moderna's shares surging as much as 160%. This is the first positive late-stage trial result for an mRNA cancer vaccine and the first such study to show that adding a treatment to Keytruda worked better than the therapy alone in people whose melanoma had been removed by surgery. Merck and Moderna said on Wednesday the vaccine helped prevent the return and spread of disease in a large trial involving more than 1,000 melanoma patients. They had localized tumors that were removed surgically but had a high risk of recurrence. Moderna expects that thousands of melanoma patients could benefit within the first few years of approval. Shares of Moderna were trading at $118.61, while Merck climbed 7.5% before the bell. And Democrats on the party's left wing are celebrating a major primary upset in Florida, while several Trump-backed Republicans also suffered defeats. Florida state lawmaker Angie Nixon defeated former national security official Alexander Vindman in the Democratic Senate primary. Nixon, a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, will now face the Republican nominee in November. Trump also attacked Vindman after his defeat and predicted Nixon would lose. Meanwhile, mainstream Democrats scored victories elsewhere in Florida, while Trump-backed candidates lost several Republican primaries, including Congressman Corey Mills. The results highlight growing divisions within both parties ahead of the November elections. And moving on, Bangladesh is set for first voted presidential poll in 35 years. Bangladesh lawmakers will elect the next president on Thursday in Parliament. Prime Minister Tariq Rahman, who is also the BNP chairman, declared party stalwart Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir as the ruling party's presidential candidate. The BNP, which was voted to power in the February 12th elections, currently commands a two-third majority in Parliament, putting Alamgir in a strong position to secure the presidency. If elected, he'll become Bangladesh's 23rd president. Islam Alamgir will face 11-party opposition alliance candidate Colonel retired Oli Ahmed. According to the Election Commission, the voting will take place at Parliament from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Well, the election was necessitated after Mohammad Shahabuddin, a close aide of deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, resigned last month on health grounds before completing his 5-year tenure. Under the Constitution, a new president must be elected within 90 days after the office falls vacant, and Parliamentary Speaker Hafizuddin Ahmed is currently serving as acting president. Well, the head of Organization of American States urged Haitian authorities to speed up voter registration ahead of upcoming elections, the first in a decade. The first round of voting is scheduled for mid-December in the impoverished Caribbean nation, which has been ravaged by gang violence that has displaced over 1 million people. The first round of voting for the election was initially scheduled for August, but has been pushed back because of security concerns. Haiti has not held elections since 2016, and its last president, assassinated in 2021, has not been replaced. And residents of Spain's North African enclave of Ceuta have stepped in to help hundreds of migrant women and children, setting up a makeshift camp as the territory struggles to cope with the aftermath of a mass border crossing. The camp in the El Principal neighborhood has been set up on a sports field with tents, mattresses, food and basic assistance provided by residents and aid groups, including the Red Cross. Thousands of migrants remain in Ceuta after more than 72,000 people crossed into the enclave 2 weeks ago, with local reception facilities now stretched beyond capacity. Well, Prince Harry and his wife Meghan have decided to move back to the United Kingdom this month. However, the couple will not resume their roles as working members of the royal family. They moved to California, US more than 6 years ago, stepping down from their royal duties. The couple are returning to Britain along with their children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. The children have already been enrolled in a British school and will start classes in September, according to media reports. The couple will not live in a royal residence but will reside at a private residence outside London. Harry recently expressed his desire to spend more time with his father, King Charles III, who's being treated for cancer. And still to come on DD India News. 4 major railway projects approved by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Stay with us for a quick roundup on rain alerts in the prevailing monsoon across the country. An Indian Postal Department introduces special Rakhi gift hamper, making the festival more special.
US launch a bombing campaign against Iran. The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. times hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
That's exactly what save your country.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khuranan. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Trump announces most crushing economic operation ever against Iran over its failure to reach a deal, warns economic punishment on any country helping Tehran. Indian ministers meet Singapore Prime Minister ahead of Ministerial Roundtable talks, focus on strategic partnership roadmap, bilateral ties and economic cooperation. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to hold bilateral talks with his Japanese counterpart in New Delhi, focus on maritime security, defence, tech transfer and Make in India. Bangladesh to hold presidential polls with 349 MPs set to vote between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. First presidential election involving voting after a gap of 35 years. And in World Badminton Championships, Indian shuttlers brace up for a stupendous show at 5 major matches. All eyes on PV Sindhu, Ayush Shetty and Satwik Chirag. Well, the fourth round of the India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable will be held in Singapore on Thursday. The India delegation is led by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, includes External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar, Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal and Minister of State for Electronics, IT, Commerce and Industry Jitin Prasada. The delegation met Prime Minister of Singapore, Lawrence Wong, today. The leaders discussed the progress made in implementing the roadmap for the comprehensive strategic partnership and ways to further strengthen bilateral cooperation across economic cooperation, digitalization, connectivity, skills development and sustainability. The India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable has emerged as an important institutional mechanism for advancing bilateral cooperation in new and emerging areas. The inaugural meeting was held in New Delhi in September 2022. Deliberations on advanced manufacturing, connectivity, digitalization, healthcare and medicine, skills development and sustainability from these meetings drive the roadmap for India-Singapore Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, which was unveiled during the visit of Lawrence Wong, Prime Minister of Singapore, to India in September 2025. The fourth round of ISMR will enable both sides to review the progress of various ongoing initiatives and identify avenues to further strengthen India-Singapore collaboration. Well, the fourth edition of the India-Singapore Business Roundtable that serves as a strategic and advisory forum will also be held alongside the Ministerial Roundtable. Well, the Japanese Defence Minister began his maiden visit to India with a high-profile visit of the Western Naval Command in Mumbai on Wednesday. The visiting dignitary held discussions with Chief of the Naval Staff Admiral Krishna Swaminathan and Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief Western Naval Command Vice Admiral Sanjay Vatsayan. The Japanese delegation was briefed on the Indian Navy's roles, responsibilities and operational capabilities. The Japanese Defence Minister also boarded the indigenous guided missile destroyer INS Chennai. Also, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will meet with his Japanese counterpart Shinjiro Koizumi in New Delhi on Thursday. The meeting is expected to further strengthen bilateral defence relations, enhance strategic trust and cooperation, promote stability and security in the Indo-Pacific, and identify new areas of collaboration. The two ministers will exchange views on deeper maritime security cooperation and closer defence equipment and technology collaboration under the Make in India framework following Japan's revision of the three principles on transfer of defence equipment and technology. Also, the meeting provides an opportunity to build a roadmap for further advancing bilateral defence and security cooperation. Well, in a swift retaliatory move, authorities in New Delhi have cleared illegal encroachments and modified outer physical security layers outside the Pakistan High Commission. The action serves as an immediate counter to Islamabad's decision to dismantle security barricades outside the Indian High Commission in Pakistan 3 days prior. The move comes against the backdrop of persistently strained ties due to Pakistan's support for cross-border terror against India. Another UN Security Council open debate on working methods on Wednesday. India's Chargé d'Affaires Ambassador Yoshna Patel called for an urgent overhaul of the UN Security Council. She stated that its 1945 architecture fails to reflect modern realities and demands greater representation for the global south. India's statement demanded that troop and police contributing countries be included directly in decision-making architecture regarding mandates and resources. Patel warned against instrumentalizing council presence for narrow political interest or attempting to shield or legitimize terrorists without objective documentation. She stressed that the UN General Assembly must have genuine substantive interaction with the Security Council rather than treating annual reports as a procedural routine. While delivering India's statement, Patel urged the expansion in both permanent and non-permanent categories through text-based negotiations with clear timelines.
The need for reforming the Security Council is more pronounced and pressing than ever before. Our joint endeavour must be on appropriately equipping the UNSC to address contemporary and future challenges. The world of 1945 has changed beyond recognition. UN membership has grown fourfold since then. The outcome of one conflict 80 years ago cannot determine the composition, dynamics, approaches, and working methods for perpetuity. This needs to change and must happen at the earliest.
Well, India's ambassador to the US, Vinay Mohan Kwatra, met US Assistant Secretary of State S. Paul Kapoor and his team on Wednesday. The meeting was held at Quatra's official residence. The Indian envoy and senior US officials discussed developments across various pillars of bilateral partnership. Kapoor had visited India earlier this month and addressed the US-India strategic dialogue. During his visit, he had discussed India-US bilateral ties, including the Quad, trade, security and energy cooperation. This was his second visit to India this year. He earlier came to India on a 3-day visit in March. Well, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday, approved 4 major railway projects costing 9,450 crore rupees. Briefing media persons in New Delhi, Information and Broadcasting Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw said the total cost of these 5 projects is around 13,041 crore rupees.
आज 5 बहुत बड़े फैसले लिए हैं। पहले 4 प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं जो कि रेलवे के हैं और 5वां प्रोजेक्ट हाईवे का है। पहले 4 प्रोजेक्ट में जो हावड़ा से चेन्नई की रूट है, मेन लाइन है, इस मेन लाइन के क्वाड्रुपलिंग के डिसीजंस हैं और एक है कटक से पारादीप रेलवे लाइन का क्वाड्रुपलिंग का 3rd and 4th लाइन। और 5वां प्रोजेक्ट है मुजफ्फरपुर से सीतामढ़ी होते हुए सोनबरसा एकदम नेपाल के बॉर्डर तक ये 4 लेन हाईवे बनाने का टोटल 13,041 करोड़ रुपीस के प्रोजेक्ट्स आज कैबिनेट में माननीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने अप्रूव किए।
While taking to social media platform X, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed Union Cabinet's decision. He wrote, and I quote him, "A major boost to railway infrastructure and connectivity across Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal. The Cabinet has approved 4 multi-tracking projects, adding important capacity to the Indian Railways network and benefiting lakhs of people. These projects will have many benefits like strengthening passenger and freight movement, reducing congestion, greater logistics efficiency, better connectivity, commerce and tourism," unquote. Well, India will host the 5th Coast Guard Global Summit in New Delhi in February 2027. The 5th CGGS will be a significant manifestation of Bharat's Mahasagar vision and its commitment to fostering a collaborative, inclusive and forward-looking maritime order. Through its sustained engagement and collective endeavour, Indian Coast Guard remains committed to contributing to international efforts for the safety, security and well-being of the global maritime commons. And India is expanding its air cargo transshipment network to make cargo movement faster and more competitive. The government has revised the framework for the handling and security of transshipment cargo and mail, covering all four movement categories: international to international, international to domestic, domestic to international, and domestic to domestic. Tapas Bhattacharya has more report on this.
India is moving to make air cargo transshipment faster, more efficient, and globally competitive. The Government of India has revised the framework for handling and security of transshipment cargo and mail, covering all four movement categories: international to international, international to domestic, domestic to international, and domestic to domestic. Under the new system, cargo can be processed through dedicated transfer cargo security hold areas. Cargo already secured at origin can be exempted from rescreening, subject to prescribed safeguards and security equivalence arrangements with partner countries.
When a cargo is being taken from a destination A to destination B via destination C, so the destination C is taking a lot of time for reprocessing, rescreening. So we have thoroughly looked in depth into this whole ecosystem. And then we have decided that when it is going from A to B via C, the C doesn't need to redo the whole process, whereas the online screening and everything is happening at the origin destination only, which is point A. So we are just minimizing the time it takes to rescreen, to handle the cargo connectivity.
The move is aimed at reducing congestion and logistics costs while allowing security agencies to focus on high-risk assignments. The Chennai-Delhi-Frankfurt route has already cut transit time from 50 to 60 hours to around 17 hours.
We have started this proof of concept 90 days ago, and the first route that we have opened was Chennai, Delhi, and Delhi to Frankfurt. And we have seen subsequent improvement in the cargo that is being handled because of the time reduction in time that has taken place from 70 hours to 20 hours. So we have handled up to 280 metric tons. And the industry was happy, the airlines was happy doing more business, and the community which is linked with air cargo, they are also very, very happy that we have unlocked this through this reform.
The expanded proof of concept beginning today will add Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, and Mumbai as domestic origin stations, with London and Copenhagen as international destinations. India is also pursuing security equivalence arrangements with 12 countries, including the UK, US, France, Germany, Japan, UAE, and Australia. The expanded pilot project begins today, strengthening India's bid to emerge as a regional air cargo hub and boost faster trade and exports. Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
And now for some weather updates from parts of India. Several states across the country are likely to receive a heavy rainfall on Thursday. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued an orange and yellow alert for several states. Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh are expected to experience heavy downpour, where the IMD has issued an orange alert. The Weather Office has also forecast rain in the hill states of Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh and issued a yellow alert for today. Incessant rainfall in these two states have triggered landslides, blocking roads. Several rivers and streams have also swelled due to heavy showers there. People in both states have also advised to exercise extreme caution during rainy season and visit outside only after checking the weather forecast. A yellow alert has also been sounded in Chhattisgarh, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh for today. Rainfall is also predicted in northeastern states including Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura. Well, several areas were left waterlogged in Delhi on Thursday, a day after heavy rainfall lashed parts of the national capital this morning. Commuters faced a slow movement amid traffic snarls at key intersections and roads. The Delhi airport stretch and several nearby underpasses were among the worst hit. Commuters heading to Delhi airport faced long delays as traffic moved at a snail's speed due to waterlogging. Waterlogged roads also led to traffic congestion in several areas in South Delhi and adjoining areas during peak hours, causing inconvenience to office goers and other commuters. On Wednesday, several parts of Delhi and nearby areas witnessed rainfall. According to the weather body's station-wise data, Palam recorded 0.4 mm rainfall in the 24 hours ending 8:30 a.m., while Ayanagar recorded 0.2 mm between 8:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Well, Rakhi may be small, but the love and memories tied to it can travel miles. This Raksha Bandhan, the Indian Postal Department is adding a colourful twist to the traditional thread of love with a special Rakhi gift box packed with festive keepsakes and affection. Let's take a look.
A Rakhi may be small, but the love packed with it can travel a very long way. And this Raksha Bandhan, sending that special thread of love to a brother, has become more colourful and convenient thanks to a special initiative by the Indian Postal Department. The department has introduced a Rakhi gift box specially designed for the younger generation with colourful contents and festive packaging. Priced at 520 rupees, the box includes 2 special Rakhis, Akshat Kumkum, a badge, a fridge magnet, a keychain and 3 picture postcards. The hamper went on sale through dedicated counters on Tuesday, and officials at the Raipur post office said it has already received an encouraging response.
In this box, you get such a wonderful collection of items. It has 2 special Rakhis, Akshat, Kumkum, a fridge magnet, a sticker, 3 picture postcards and a keychain. You get all these things in this box and the response has also been very good. It was launched yesterday and as of today, we have sold around 40 boxes.
With Raksha Bandhan just days away, sisters looking to send more than just a Rakhi to their brothers can turn to their local post office, where a colourful box is ready to carry festive warmth, keepsakes and a little extra affection. Raksha Bandhan will be celebrated on August 28th this year.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. US national debt crosses $40 trillion mark, borrowing exceeds earlier government forecast. India is top spot as women face England in crucial Hockey World Cup clash. And we'll also take you inside Hong Kong's Ocean Park for a sneak peek at its new reptile pavilion featuring rare and exotic species.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and on to some business news now. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg is facing allegations that child safety took a back seat to growth and engagement on Facebook and Instagram. A former Meta engineer says some safety features on Facebook and Instagram were designed to fail. Arturo Bijar testified in a major California trial accusing Meta of putting profits ahead of child safety. Bijar says tools like Instagram's Take a Break feature were made optional, while notifications were designed to keep users coming back and spending more time on the platforms. Meta denies the allegations and says it has created tools to reduce risk for young users. The trial is expected to last about 6 weeks and could bring major changes to Meta's business. Well, the U.S. national debt has crossed the $40 trillion mark for the first time, highlighting growing pressure on government finances as borrowing, interest costs and long-term spending obligations continue to rise. The milestone comes as markets remain concerned about the size of the U.S. deficit and the rising cost of servicing its debt. Treasury data showed total public debt outstanding reached $40.05 trillion on Tuesday, exceeding an earlier Congressional Budget Office forecast of $39.4 trillion for the end of fiscal year 2026. Economists warned that sustained deficits and high interest rates could push up borrowing costs for the government, businesses and consumers. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. 5 major matches involving Indian shuttlers are scheduled for today at the 2026 World Badminton Championships currently underway in New Delhi. In this knockout round, India's star shuttler and former champion PV Sindhu will face China's Wang Ziyi in the women's single pre-quarter finals. In men's singles, young Indian player Ayush Shetty will face Indonesia's Alvi Farhan. Meanwhile, in men's doubles, India's star pair Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty will take on Malaysia's Junaidi Arif and Yap Roy King. In addition, the women's doubles pair of Teresa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand, along with Dhruv Kapila and Tanisha Crasto, will also take to the court with a place in the quarterfinals at stake. And in the final Pool D match of the FIH Hockey World Cup, the Indian women's team will face England today. The match will be played at the Wagner Stadium in Amstelveen. The match will begin at 6:30 p.m. IST. A win or a draw will see India finish top of the pool and qualify for the next round. On Tuesday, India registered a 6-1 victory over South Africa. This win surpassed India's previous biggest victory in the World Cup, a 4-1 win over Spain in the inaugural 1974 World Cup. And earlier, India extended their decade-long unbeaten run over arch rivals Pakistan with a 5-3 win in a high-voltage Hockey World Cup match in Amstelveen, city of the Netherlands, on Wednesday. Skipper Harmanpreet Singh and striker Abhishek scored a brace each, while Hardik Singh converted a penalty stroke for India. Playing their first World Cup in 8 years, Pakistan fought back after conceding 3 goals, but India held their nerve to seal a memorable win. Hanan Shahid scored twice for Pakistan, with Sufyan Khan adding the other goal from the penalty corner. The result saw India and England qualify for the second round from Pool D. The defeat ended Pakistan's campaign in the tournament. And Hong Kong's Ocean Park unveiled its first ever pavilion dedicated entirely to the reptiles. The new reptile territory opening this Friday showcases nearly 20 species of reptiles, from endangered living fossils to color-changing chameleons. The park hopes the new pavilion helps visitors see these cold-blooded creatures in a different light. Take a look. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.